In a quiet town in Minnesota, there lived an ordinary family, a husband, a wife, and their two little children who were the apple of their parents' eyes. One day, this family decided to move to a new house. It was an old building, but the first impression was good. Everything was clean and well organized, and most importantly, the price was very attractive, so they moved in without any problems. For the first week, everything seemed fine, but then strange things started to happen. As the story goes, it all started when the mother, Nancy, was sitting in the living room alone. Her husband was at work and the kids were at school. Suddenly, she felt as if someone was watching her. However, she shrugged off the feeling and continued doing what she was doing. But every night this happened, and it was getting weirder and weirder. Then breathing started coming from the air conditioner vent, slow, measured, and deliberate. At first, Nancy thought it was probably a mouse or some other small animal that had somehow gotten stuck in there. But as the days went by, the breathing became louder and more frequent, and Nancy could barely stand it anymore. She even started jumping when the breathing suddenly stopped. One night, Nancy got so scared that she put her ear close to the air conditioner vent to hear better. To her horror, through the vent, she heard a raspy voice whisper, "I see you." Nancy froze. She wanted to scream, but she couldn't make a sound. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy and didn't respond to her. She struggled to free herself from this paralysis. And when she finally managed to do so, she immediately called the police. When the cops arrived, Nancy told them about everything that had happened, but they didn't believe her. After all, how could someone be whispering through an air vent? Even if that person was in there, how could he be breathing without making a sound? The police thoroughly searched the entire house, but they found absolutely nothing. No people, no animals, no sounds. And when they checked the air conditioner vent, they didn't find anything unusual either. But before leaving, the police asked Nancy if she had any cameras installed in the house. She said yes. She had recently installed a surveillance camera in her son's room to keep an eye on him. The police immediately asked to show them the footage. When they looked at the videos from that night, they saw something truly terrifying. At first, everything seemed fine. The room was dark, and the only light came from the monitor. But then the camera angle changed slightly. It turned out that the air vent in the room had opened from the inside, and a slowly moving hand emerged from it. The police returned immediately and searched the entire air conditioning system, but they didn't find anyone there. However, later, when they checked the ventilation system again, they discovered something terrible. It turned out that someone had been living in the vents of the house for several months. The thing is, when the police searched the air conditioning system the first time, they didn't dismantle it completely. They just looked into the nearest vent and didn't find anyone there. But now they saw that someone had been living in the vents of the house for several months. There were traces of human presence everywhere. Someone had been hiding in here, eating, sleeping, and drinking. And if Nancy hadn't heard that whisper, who knows how much longer this person would have remained undetected. It gets even worse. The police also learned that a young man had escaped from the prison farm not far from the city a few months ago. It turned out that he had been sneaking into abandoned houses and living there without anyone knowing about it. But the police still didn't have any evidence that this guy had anything to do with the strange occurrences in Nancy's house. But when they searched the vents, they found a piece of fabric that matched the clothes the runaway was wearing. Later, fingerprints and DNA tests confirmed that the guy had indeed been hiding in the vents. The police also found his picture on a surveillance camera from a gas station where he stole money to buy food. All this evidence was enough to prove the guy's guilt. He was soon caught and brought to justice. At first, he denied everything, but when the police showed him the footage from Nancy's house, he immediately confessed to everything. Later, during the trial, it turned out that the guy had seen Nancy and her family through the air vent and realized that he wasn't the only one living in the house. He couldn't resist the temptation and decided to take a closer look at them. And when he saw that the family was asleep, he broke into their house and stole food and clothes. But it quickly turned out that stealing wasn't enough for him. He developed some kind of obsession with the family and wanted to see them sleep every night. Sometimes he just watched them from the vents, but sometimes he touched the sleeping family members, which made them wake up and scream. One time he went too far and took a woman's phone when she fell asleep. The next day the woman called the police because she couldn't get through to her husband. When the officers arrived, they questioned everyone who lived nearby, but no one had seen anything. The only clue they had was the footage from the surveillance camera at the gas station. But even though it wasn't enough to identify the thief, however, Nancy insisted that the police should keep looking for the criminal because she was sure that he would strike again. But the police officers didn't share her enthusiasm and believed that this case was hopeless. They even started thinking that maybe the woman was going crazy and imagining things. But Nancy knew she wasn't mistaken, and she was right. A few days later, the police received a call from another town. A family had gone missing there, and when they searched one of the houses, they found traces of blood in the basement. At first, the police didn't think much of it. Maybe the family had been attacked by a burglar who had fled the scene. But then they checked the ventilation system and found a few hairs and some skin cells from the fugitive. He had struck again. He was arrested immediately. The guy confessed to everything. He said he had seen the family while they slept. He felt like he owned them. He also confessed to taking the woman's phone. The court sentenced the guy to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As for Nancy, she didn't spend a single day in that house after the incident. She sold it at a loss and moved to another city with her family. They never spoke about what happened to them in that house again, and what's most interesting, this case wasn't the only one in which criminals used ventilation systems to sneak into people's houses. Do you remember the Lutz family from Amityville? Their house became famous after a horrific crime. On November 13, 1964, Ronald DeFeo shot his parents, 3 brothers, and a sister. Everyone died right there, right in their beds. But when the police arrived at the scene of the crime, it turned out that the killer had disappeared. The cops searched the entire area, but they couldn't find him anywhere. Later, the house where the crime had taken place was bought by George and Kathy Lutz. They were excited about their new home and happy to start a new life there. But just 23 days after moving in, they began experiencing strange things. First, there was a smell of stale urine in the basement. Then, strange scratches appeared on Kathy's arms, and once she even heard whispers coming from the walls. The Lutz family was terrified. What was happening? Why were these terrible things happening to them? They contacted priests and psychics, but no one could help them. Then they called paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. After arriving at the house, the Warrens immediately noticed that the energy here was dirty and evil. And when they started talking to the Lutz family, they realized that the family had no idea what they were getting into. Lorraine Warren, who was a clairvoyant, said that she could feel 28 evil presences in the house. That's when Ed Warren suggested that they should check the vents. When he started inspecting them, he noticed that the air ducts in the bedrooms were blocked. This was done on purpose, but why? The investigators also found strange markings near the vents, which they later learned were ritualistic signs. They then remembered that a black mass had been found in the basement of the house during the investigation of the crime. It turned out that the killer, Ronald DeFeo, had been practicing Satanism since high school, and after killing his whole family, he transferred his possessions from the crime scene to the house on Ocean Avenue, Amityville. That's where he kept them until his death, which is why the Lutz family was experiencing all those horrors. The Warrens suggested that the family should immediately leave the house and never come back. And they did. Perhaps this is just a coincidence, but I can't help but notice that both houses where these crimes occurred had blocked air ducts in the bedrooms. Is it a mere coincidence, or are the criminals trying to tell us something? Now, it's your turn to decide, and if you want to hear more stories like this one, subscribe to the DarkCase Files channel, and don't forget to like the video and enable notifications so you won't miss any new episodes. Thank you for watching.